Right. Welcome to the official first episode of the Parking Lot Takes podcast. That's Brandon.
That's Christian.
And the movie might be over,
but the conversation's just starting.
And we are so excited to dive into what we got going on today. We finally have seen... Finally. It's been way too long.
Yeah.
We finally got around to seeing our last big movie of 2024. We're a little late to the game, but we are excited to talk about this movie, which is really the greatest love story ever told.
Is that what you think? Okay.
Yeah, it's a beautiful love story about, like you said, a real estate agent trying to make his way in today's world when his wife is unfortunately taking a lover with a vampire. That's right, Nosferatu. We are finally getting to it. But before,
very family friendly.
Go see it. Take your kids. Go. Valentine's Day is coming up. Please rent it.
Great couples movie.
It's up there.
Do not take your
Hotel
kids to
Transylvania
see this.
was the conversation for a while. Now it's Nosferatu. And
yeah.
I'm very excited about it. So,
I am really excited to talk about it, I will say.
Yeah,
but do not take your kids to see this movie.
No, don't. So, before we get into it,
yes,
real quick, Parking Lot Takes, first episode. We want to talk about why it's called the Parking Lot Takes.
Exactly.
Seemingly a not polarizing, but interesting name for a podcast. Ultimately, what became just shared over a love of movies and film and cinema. We got Parking Lot Takes because me and Brandon saw Dune 2.
Yeah.
And we stood in the parking lot for 2 hours.
For 2 hours, yeah.
And basically sparked this idea to do a movie all around awesome podcast.
Yeah. Because, I feel like ever since we met and started seeing movies together, the conversation has always been that way.
Yes.
Like we finish the movie, we're walking out, trying to gather our thoughts. We hit the parking lot and we're like, I've got to talk about this.
No, we
can't. I've got to bounce this off someone. I got to see if I'm crazy.
No, you can't go home.
You can't just go home.
You can't go home to your thoughts. What is that?
Yeah. So that's the essence, is to capture that parking lot conversation style of, you just saw the movie, you're excited, you want to talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that is a shared euphoric experience for
100%.
For most moviegoers. Yeah. So we are hoping to capitalize on that.
Yeah. Very excited.
So first off today, we have our official Nosferatu discussion, and we'll go into talking about just our overall movies of 2024. And maybe we'll end on some interesting deep dive questions if we have time, and as well as some Super Bowl trailer predictions we got going on.
Yeah.
So
Nosferatu.
To start it off, Nosferatu. All right, so before each movie, as long as we can remember, we're always going to try and write down expectations and an overall before score before seeing the movie, which we both did.
Yes. Okay. Initial thoughts, expectations.
Okay.
What were you thinking going into this? You've seen a couple Robert Eggers movies.
Yes.
And you liked them.
I do. I'm not like a faithful... He's not to where I'm like, Robert Eggers is a must-see. For me, I think he is a must-see director.
Yes.
Just for me, he's not like, I need to see him in theaters.
Interesting.
Mostly because I like to chew on a lot of stuff he does.
Yeah,
like,
I'm with you.
My top... I'll just say this. One of my favorite theater experiences, it's in my top 10, The Northman.
Of theater experiences all time?
No, well, theater experience was great. I'm sorry, top 10 movies.
Gotcha.
I've just, in terms of enjoyment, was The Northman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have it up there. I like it.
That's interesting.
I really, really like it.
I liked it too a lot, definitely.
So he has become a must-see director for me, but I have seen The Northman. I saw it 3 times in the theater just so I could chew on it over and over and over again.
Wow.
So
you really
like that movie. And this is another movie that does require some chewing. But beforehand, going in, I expected it to be a movie I needed to chew on. I expected it to be a movie that was going to be thought-provoking. I was going to have to think on. I expected it to be artistic. I expected it to be shot very well. Trying to put all of those things aside is what I would have went going in. Now, we are late to seeing this.
Yes.
So those are my unbiased views without hearing anything about what people thought. Now, hearing about what people thought, I expected to be blown away.
Yeah.
I expected to be like, oh wow, that was amazing. I'm not a horror movie person whatsoever, not my thing, but I expected that to subvert all my expectations. Kind of like It, where I went into It, and the first It was just a good movie and not necessarily like designed around being just this ultra horrifying experience. Which is what I kind of expected out of this. So I became just now taking the reviews I've heard, which were very, very high, going out of watching the trailer, knowing what I know about Robert Eggers, I had this sitting at a 8 out of 10 for me.
Interesting.
Before I went in. That's what I expected to receive.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I really like Robert Eggers.
Yep.
I really loved The Lighthouse.
Okay.
I loved The Northman.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely went in very high on this. Before I tried to avoid as much as I could early on, but you're right. We are a little late to it. So I did hear some grumblings of like, this is really good. So I expected the hype to be pretty high. So it definitely increased my expectations for it. But I went in with this sitting very similar at like an 8 out of 10. I thought this was going to be 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5 stars, 3 big booms, you know, like 3 big. No, we won't do that. We won't do that.
No, we're not going to do that.
But I know his style. I know his work. I really like what he does. I think it's different enough that it is a must-see in the theater when it's a subject that I can tolerate. Because I did not see The Witches or The Witcher or whatever his first film was. But I was very high on it. And I expected a lot. And so I'm really curious to see, based on your expectations, what you thought overall.
Yeah. So what we can do, so a little bit of background. This is a remake, kind of, of a beloved movie of Robert Eggers, which is Nosferatu. Yeah. With a lot of very cool director decisions and outer influence through the greater Dracula story that he has added in here.
He definitely made some changes, tweaked a few things, added some story elements.
For sure.
Definitely. Made it his own, I would say.
Yeah. Now, we have seen, as of like 10 minutes ago,
this is a fresh watch.
We have seen it, and we are coming right in here to get our thoughts down.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and just go with initial review now.
Overall.
Your overall view now, and I'll go. And then we'll just start our discussion, see how long we go.
Yeah,
so
sounds great.
And we will be avoiding spoilers.
Yes,
for this to a certain extent.
Point,
and then I think if the conversation gets there, we will do a spoiler warning, and we will then go in depth.
We'll give you a disclaimer.
Yeah.
Okay. Your overall perception. You just watched it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So I had an 8 out of 10. I would give it, having seen it, what I was expecting. I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. I don't know I would give it the full 8 for a few reasons that we'll get into, but I'll let you give your rating first, and then we'll go.
I feel it falls exactly where I thought it was.
Okay. I mean, I'm not far from where I wasn't. Yeah.
I would say it's a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at some of his other work, I would have a couple of them a little bit higher.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at like other movies in the year, just kind of what I know, I would say this falls pretty exactly how I had it at 8 out of 10. I would say on a good day, maybe I would give it like 8.5 if I was going to get really specific.
Okay.
I liked it a lot. I thought the story was interesting. So overall, I think it delivered on what I was expecting out of it.
Yeah. Where I think the movie falls short for me is emotional impact. I felt like I was viewing other people coming out of this movie having this euphoric experience of like, oh my gosh, that had no reason to be as good as it was, and all these things. And while I totally can see that, and I definitely agree with a lot of that, I was not as emotionally impacted as I would like to be. And I felt like I wish I had walked out of there like, this is incredible. And I walked out like, yeah, that was very good. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's 0.5, right? Like, it's 0.5
Yes.
under. I mean, 8 out of 10 for me is you need to see this movie.
It's a really good
7.5,
movie.
I'd say. It's still really good.
Yeah.
It's shot amazing. It is
incredible.
color choice. Color grading is incredible. The black and white scenes versus the color, that distinction is amazing.
Sound design.
Sound
incredible.
design.
Kind of
Oh my
bites
gosh.
you at times.
When Bill
Awful.
Skarsgård is breathing, it is just it is like just I mean goosebumps and everything about it is it's just shot so well.
Let's also pause. That's Bill Skarsgård.
That is crazy.
Couldn't even tell. It could
No.
be any actor. I would have absolutely no clue.
That's I mean
Incredible.
like it's not the same, but it's like it freaks me out just about as much as Colin Farrell in The Penguin.
Yes.
Because it doesn't
Yes.
even sound like him.
Doesn't
I can't other than his eyes, I really can't see Bill
Yes.
Skarsgård in Orlok, but
Yeah.
I can't believe he got his voice to do that.
I saw like an interview where he was like working with, I think like an opera singer or something to like hit that lower
Yeah.
register. Insane. Because he
Yeah.
doesn't sound anything like his normal voice that I've heard in like interviews.
No. Well, even like if you think about Pennywise, just like
Yes.
Pennywise had a higher register,
But it still
already.
sounds like him in a way.
Pennywise, yes, you can
Yes.
hear it, and
Yeah.
you can definitely hear the Skarsgård in there. But this is like just totally dissociated. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about that being Bill Skarsgård, honestly,
wasn't
until
either.
you said it
Yeah.
just now.
Yeah.
So
I think the emotional aspect of it that you feel like didn't hit for you, I don't feel like it needed to for this story.
yeah,
I don't feel like I needed to be emotionally connected to these characters with the type of story that it was. So that didn't really bring it down for me at all. I was there with the story. I thought it was interesting how it was unfolding was really done well. I thought the pacing was really good too.
I think
mean,
the pacing's great.
just walking through each scene, how they would transition, you're immediately into the next scene. It's moving pretty quickly, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely moving quick. Now, in my opinion, its kind of detriment. The pacing's good. It moves quick. It is hard to tell how much time is passing in the moment.
Yes.
Because they go after a period of time, they will reference and be like, okay, it's been this long. But in the moment, I'm like, has it been days? Has it been weeks? Has it been months?
Yeah.
Has it been a year? It could be all of those things.
It changes.
and you're not sure.
It changes day night very quickly.
Right.
You kind of lose that.
Well, and just,
most of it's
yeah.
in the evening.
Just because of some of the nature of because there's traveling involved,
Yes.
you know that's taking months.
yes. Oh yeah.
So it doesn't feel like that. It's kind of like boom, next scene. This might as well be the next day. This might as well be the next moments with this character, and it's not necessarily always clear that these are months apart.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
But that's such a nitpick, and that is not why
Yes.
I'm saying it. I'm giving it that 0.5 down because while I wanted to walk out of there like wow, and I didn't. But that was purely from an emotional impact to the characters in the story because I'm sitting there trying to understand the story, understand motives, and I feel like I'm understanding what Robert Eggers is giving me. It's just not emotionally lining up for me. And if you can understand that, then you can understand that. But ultimately, like the characters I felt like I was supposed to really care about,
Yeah.
I just didn't. I cared about other characters more. And when we get into our spoiler section, I can talk about that a little bit more and dive into it.
Yeah, that just didn't matter as much for me. So I think I felt the story was good enough that it kind of carried its way through. And we'll talk a little bit more about how it kind of resolves, but it just is executed so incredibly well. Like I remember hearing people saying like this is his magnum opus, like this is the culmination of all of his work coming together.
Yeah, I would actually say that.
I would
could go to
say,
that.
as far as like a composition, how it looks, how the story unfolds, just itself as a film, I think I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah,
it's shot better than anything I've seen him do. It looks better than anything I've seen him do.
Very much,
it definitely feels like that. But I just felt like the story was interesting enough, and at the rate that it was unfolding, I was engaged all the way through. Even when there was more emotional beats for characters, I didn't feel like it was bringing it down for me at all in the slightest. That's why I feel like it hit
And it's
right
like
where I wanted it.
It's just, I think it's just purely how I received it, and I'm just gonna go out and say, I think knowing what people thought hurt me.
That's
what I'm saying. I think
because people were saying this is like
here's what I rated it 8 out of 10 conservatively, because I expected to be like 9.5 out of 10, and I wasn't. I was almost right where I thought. I was almost right where I was conservatively, but really wanted to be higher. Over. And I wasn't, and I know emotionally I was under.
Yes.
So that's why I'm bumping it down just a little bit. But that I will say, if I had no idea and I'm just going into, I feel like I would have liked it more.
Yeah.
But I also, we were watching the movie. We kind of went in like we can't talk about it because we want to save the conversation for here. But we had to talk through parts of it. We had to sit there and kind of talk about things and speculate here and there and on certain sections just to make sure we're both understanding it.
Yeah.
And it is definitely a movie I think that benefits from a rewatch.
But I don't know if I will.
I don't know if I will. It's emotionally taxing, mentally taxing.
Mentally very much so.
Not a downfall. Just that is the reality of the movie that was made.
Okay,
I think Northman's like that as well, I will say. I think just Robert Eggers is just...
His movies in general.
Are just mentally, spiritually taxing movies. Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's not a bad thing. But that is just the subject matter.
Yes.
So.
Okay, I think let's do spoilers. Let's talk about a couple things. So disclaimer this is spoilers.
Yeah, at this
point
if you
haven't seen it,
spoilers.
Come back.
Yep.
I think the story element specifically was the part, like there were certain parts that we needed to talk through explanation-wise, specifically with Ellen's character and her relationship to Count Orlok.
Yeah.
That's where it gets very ambiguous, I guess you could say. And really makes this film something beyond just an interesting, cool vampire story into there's lore. You're trying to understand what's actually happening.
Right.
What is the character's motivations? That's where I think that it does elevate into something very Robert Eggers. You've got to think through.
No dialogue is wasted.
Oh,
all dialogue means something.
Yes,
and that's probably when I'm coming at it from a mentally taxing. We need to talk through this. Well,
it's also in Old English.
Yeah,
so.
Like every line is used, every word syllable is hung on and executed well, and it is used for the grander story. Going back to the ambiguousness, it is hard. It is just not one of those that has a bow on it.
Yes.
Where everything is made clear in the end.
Yeah.
And it is. And you are drawn sitting there asking these questions. Who initiated this relationship between Ellen and Nosferatu?
Yes. Yeah.
Who initiated that? Mm-hmm. Was that Ellen? Was that Nosferatu? Did Nosferatu prey on her, or did she initially seek him out?
Yes.
What? Those aren't necessarily.
She thinks she did.
Yeah, she thinks she did. But is that also a victim mentality that is taken that you hear about?
That's actually a really
Whereas,
good point.
like, maybe I did ask for this.
Yeah.
I was chosen because I'm evil or whatever.
Yeah. Because he says too, like to her, you are not from humankind.
Right.
Is it she's actually not? Like there's something evil within her?
Yeah.
Or you're right, is she preying on is he preying on her?
Is he preying on her? Yeah, exactly.
To kind of manipulate her. And it's not very clear. No. You probably could interpret it a couple different ways. Because like we came out of it and you had an interpretation, I had an interpretation, and I kind of lean towards, I think you're more correct on what you're thinking there. So it does leave you you're right, it's not tied up in a bow. Like you kind of have to do the thought work to really understand this movie.
I think everyone's going to take it differently.
Yes.
Because it's not the most clear tied up.
Yes.
Like, this
there's
is,
not there's no
there's
like
no
exposition
aha moment.
Dumps or
it's just like it's happening and you're there when it's the movie is happening.
You're just
and you are experiencing the happening.
And I love those movies.
Yeah.
I love that kind of.
I do too. I do enjoy that.
Yes.
This instance, I found my brain just trying to figure it out.
Yes.
And at some point when the movie ended, I'm like, I didn't figure it out. There was no aha moment. There's no reason. For the most part, it's an ambiguous movie.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of thoughts going into it. I think you're right. A second viewing probably would serve this movie really well. I just also think I don't want to do that a second time.
Yeah. In terms of horror, let me just be the voice of what I wish I had.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's horror. It's listed as horror because it kind of has to be.
Yes.
Okay. It's not set out to scare you.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the purpose.
Yes.
It's supposed to be eerie, and it's supposed to be
dreadful. Yeah.
And it's supposed to be filled with grief, and that's why it's in the violence and the body horror.
Yes,
elements.
the grotesque elements, I think, is what really leads it into
right.
horror.
It's not sent out to jump scare you, to be this thing that you just take with you. In my opinion,
like his character, I definitely expected it to be a little scarier, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's pretty terrifying. But once you get kind of through the initial of what he looks like, Count Orlok looks like, it's not really that intimidating.
No,
it's just
they
kind
reveal
of
him
grotesque.
pretty quick. You see him pretty quick.
Yes,
pretty quick into the story. You get to see him. He's established.
I did think that early on. I thought they are showing him very early.
Yeah,
I kind of was expecting more of a build up. Now the scene like early in the film when Nicholas Holt's character is at the castle with Count Orlok for the first time. I thought that scene was really good.
Yeah.
They're carefully not showing him. Nicholas Holt is terrified. He does a fantastic job in those scenes.
Yeah.
And I like that build up, but we technically had already seen what he looked like. So I thought that was an interesting choice not to save it, because most horror movies do that, right?
Yeah.
You don't see him till the middle of the film or third act or whatever. But no, they kind of leaned more into the dread side of it than the jump scare.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. I think that done right is really good.
I don't know that there's a jump scare in here.
The first scene.
I mean, that's a cut to.
Yeah.
It's like a quick cut to moment.
We both kind of jumped a little.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you gotta get the jitters out.
Yes,
you gotta get to the, we didn't know going in. Everyone's like, this is a terrifying movie.
You have no clue.
I disagree that it's terrifying.
It's not.
I don't think it's terrifying at all. I'm sitting there trying to figure out the lore.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
I'm like a lore junkie. So that's like, I'm kind of almost being taken out of the horror elements.
Yes.
Trying to understand.
Yes.
And get the world. Now, real quick, something, just a stroke of genius on Robert Eggers' part, which as I sit, it could elevate the movie because I'm like loving the idea of this.
Yes.
Is Orlok bringing the Black Plague.
Oh, that's very
such
interesting.
Awesome. The use of rats in a different element. Also, just before I forget, the use of shadows is very good.
Oh, very
good.
But
the way the rats, Robert Eggers uses the rats in the storytelling, and the use of the Black Plague to just symbolize that the curse of Count Orlok, that death follows him everywhere.
Well, it's interesting because we know that like the Black Plague was a historical event throughout Europe, and it was awful. So kind of, you're right, integrating that, he brings that with him. He's death. Because there's a lot of symbolism of, like, Ellen's character says, like, I dreamed and death, I was getting married to death.
Yeah.
He is death. He's like the embodiment of death.
Right.
And adding in that element with the plague, there's death happening all throughout, especially towards the back end of this movie.
Right.
And it's not always him. Sometimes it is what he brings with him, and I think that was a really cool element.
Yeah,
because it's historical.
Yeah, those type of elements or those type of decisions just serve to elevate a movie, and that's what it did for me. And I really really liked that. That in terms of a like cool aha moment, that would have been that.
Yes.
Because I think when the people are getting sick.
And he's
on the ship. I think I'm more like, okay, Orlok's on the ship. Maybe he's just infecting, which is what is happening. But I think
he's
Orlok's feasting on them.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of this, if you're quick, I think you can pick it up in that moment. I just wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah, I didn't pick it up till
they
were
the boats. Well, the moment you said it. You didn't know the moment you said it in the movie was when the boat had collided to the shore and we had the rats rushing on.
Yes,
and you're like, the Black Plague. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good.
And then they kind of confirm it when they're in the infirmary and he's saying, these are all the signs of a plague.
Yeah.
But like the one body, he says, what rat has this size like of a mouth or jaw or whatever?
Right.
And then you go, oh, okay, it's connected to
I
that.
could have used maybe a little bit more Orlok in Europe feasting on people.
Really?
No, because it's the perfect cover with the Black Plague.
Yes. Oh, I see what you're saying.
And so using that to his advantage to feast, I think is a cool story on it. It's nothing. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the first person who thought of
Yes.
that. So I'm not a genius.
Yeah.
It just more, it was like, oh, wow. I remember like, dude,
that's a perfect cover.
a perfect cover for a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously in the movie, they're like, this guy's been drained of blood. But at some point, when the plague's known about, no one's touching the bodies and they're just burning them.
Yes.
So no one's checking anything.
That's true.
So
they wouldn't see the bites.
Right. Yeah. So like that to me was like the perfect cover. I think it's probably implied.
Yes.
It is implied. No, they do it. I think I just could have been more, right? It's kind of like you kind of can assume it happened more than once, but it's kind of tied to one event.
Yes.
And so
it could have been interesting, almost like if we were seeing a lot of these bodies, they're just burning them, and then somebody comes upon one and finds a bite mark, and there's like this realization of, oh, this is more than just a plague.
Yeah.
Now again, that's like me adding in where I think they could have done
with the story elements. They're already on to it by that point.
You're exactly right.
So it doesn't make a ton of sense to do that.
Yeah. It is a cool element.
But I think I could have used like, holy cow, Orlok's killed like 100 people or whatever, just to add to his menacing moments. Yeah. Do you have really anything else you wanna say?
It delivered.
Right
delivered where I thought it was going to.
That's a great.
I will say,
I'm so happy for you.
Like, it didn't supersede that. Now,
Did you
want
want it to supersede it?
Not necessarily.
I did. That's, I think, what hurt me.
I think I went in thinking, if this is an 8 out of 10, that's a really good movie. I'm happy with that.
Okay.
I'm always looking for a movie to exceed my expectations, but I was happy that it kind of delivered where I wanted it to. Yeah. Especially looking at kind of where 2024 is at in films, I feel pretty satisfied where it's at.
Okay. Sounds good.
It's a good one. We both liked it.
Oh, I liked it. I didn't dislike it.
I kind of thought you were going to rank it lower.
No,
just based on like maybe some of your initial.
I'm just like bumping it because I just maybe had a bad expectation, or not a bad. I just had more.
Yeah.
I went in and I said I think it's going to be an 8, but I think we all know we're like hoping it's going to be.
Yes.
Every movie you go see, you want it to be a 10 out of 10.
100%.
Every movie, if you're paying money to go see a movie, you're spending 2 hours to see something. Yeah. You want it to just be the top it can be. Mm-hmm. I think this is a great movie, and totally deserved of all the glory and hype. I did finish it, and I was like, why is everybody talking about this?
Yes.
I was my first thought. And I was like, no, I get it. Yes. And then as we're rearranging the studio to get ready to film, I'm like, I get a little bit more. I'm like, okay, no, this is pretty good.
A little time
gives this is I'm chewing on it. It's developing. We're getting the ball rolling, and I came out kind of like, no, I think I had it pretty on the money where I thought it was ranked. I am gonna dock it because I could not care. I just didn't care about Ellen.
That's fair. I will give you that
because I'm trying to figure out, does she hate Orlok? Does she like him? Is she like what and I think like I'm left so much wondering how someone actually feels I'm trying to understand actions and dialogue coming from her that I'm not even getting attached, and I'm not like, because this is probably the big spoiler. She passes away at the end, which is a great story element where she sacrifices herself. I didn't care.
I don't think it was meant to care though.
But it didn't impact me at all that she died.
Yeah.
But I'd say that like throughout the movie, I wasn't grown attached to her.
Yeah. Because they definitely don't make her very likable. They make her more of a.
I don't know that anyone's like, other than Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah. I'm emotionally attached to Aaron Taylor Johnson and his family.
I will say yes.
Because he's that's kind of more
he's
so
kind of the main victim.
The main victim, right? He sets out to do something kind, and just totally
wrecks his
just
family.
his
He's
entire
left
life
alive
is in shambles, and
Yeah.
they all die.
Yeah.
So I feel for him. I was emotionally impacted there. Also, there's kids involved. I think that probably is an easy tie-in emotionally. Nicholas Hoult.
It's
I
tricky.
don't know how attached I was to him. I think probably because you don't know who's dead. Like, he's feasting on people multiple times over and over again, so you don't know when someone's dead. I think that's probably it, because you've already remember, like, you early in the movie, you think Nicholas Holt's character is dead like 3 times.
He's done, yeah.
3 separate times. There's events where you think he's dead.
Because he feasts on Nicholas Hoult at least twice while he's at his castle.
There's the first time. There's the second time. There's then the fall into the river.
Yes.
There's all this stuff where I think maybe you're just kind
desensitized
of desensitized,
to it.
and you're like, okay, this guy. So
I can see
being
that.
said.
I can definitely see that. I think Ellen's character, for me, because she was the crux of the movie, I was fine with how it was playing out. I didn't feel like I needed to necessarily be emotionally attached, because I was attached with her being the main story element of ultimately breaking the curse, if you want to call it that, for Count Orlok. So I thought it was interesting enough. I didn't feel like I needed to be emotionally attached.
That's good.
So when they died, it was just like, whatever. But it's a part of the story. So it made sense.
Yeah.
It was good, though.
I definitely go see it.
I would definitely see it, especially if you like Robert Eggers stuff, because this is peak Robert Eggers.
Yeah, for sure.
That was the last one, though, that we really wanted to knock off.
That was
list.
it. That was kind of it.
There's a couple other ones, but that was the one we were most interested
Wild
in.
Robots one. When that gets to streaming, I'll check it out. I'm not a sad movie person per se. I heard people were like, "This is a sad movie," and so it's not. I mean, I like that. I can take it. It's just not always. I just never found myself while it was in theaters in a mood for it.
Yeah.
So I need to check it out. But I'm sure that it's worth all the hype it's getting.
Yeah.
But enough about movies we haven't seen. Let's talk about movies we did see.
Yes.
In 2024.
2024.
And we're going to run through our top movies of 2024 just to get a little bit about us and our tastes. And then
We've each got 10.
Yeah, we each got 10.
We're going to move through.
We're gonna fire through them real quick. Okay. I think you just go through your list, and we're going to leave some opportunity to talk about things.
Yeah.
So
you want me just go 10 through 1?
Yep.
Then we'll let you?
Yeah, perfect. 10 through 1. And then here's about I'll let you ask a question about my list.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask a question about your list.
Yeah.
And then see what comes of that.
All right. Number 10. Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim.
Cool.
I thought it was really good.
Yep.
I don't think it was great. I think I went in expecting it to be an anime film. And I think in moments it delivered on that. Did it expound exponentially on the Lord of the Rings lore? Not necessarily. It did something interesting, I think. And for kind of a one-off anime film, I thought it was fun. I left it thinking I was excited to jump back in the Lord of the Rings universe. I experienced it. I came out. I had a good time. So that was a good, solid watch for me. Cool. I felt like in 2024. Number 9, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I love this franchise.
Yeah, it's good.
I love this franchise. Now, I will say, I think it's weaker than the first 3, but I think it still delivers on the Planet of the Apes franchise, I guess, or story. I mean, it definitely expounds on what we've already built. Yeah. And I did really like it. I thought it was had some good characters in it, some good new apes in it that were interesting. And I thought the story was fun.
Yeah.
So I was happy to revisit the franchise. I was kind of nervous it wouldn't be as good as the other ones. And it's not, but it was good enough to kind of warrant its existence to me. Number 8 would be Gladiator 2. I really like this. I thought Paul Mescal was amazing. I thought he did a great job. Did we need this movie? Not necessarily, but it was good enough, I think, to justify it being a sequel. And I watched it a couple times in theaters, and definitely on the second watch, I felt like I enjoyed it even more. And it was just kind of one of those movies where the action kind of delivered for me more. The couple moments that I thought were really good in the movie delivered even harder on the second time, which I think just elevated kind of my enjoyment of it.
Okay.
Number 7, A Quiet Place, Day 1.
Ooh.
I also really love this franchise.
Yes.
And I was really excited to see what day one looked like. I think it delivered on that. I think it delivered on kind of the chaos of the initial, what does a day one look like in this kind of post-apocalyptic setting? And I think the characters were really interesting. I think it delivered on that feeling, having already seen the other movies and kind of knowing what it is, what the world is, what the creatures are. I feel like it delivered on that day one. Number 6, Nosferatu.
Nosferatu at number 6.
I liked it enough. I was looking at this list and I was like, where would I put it? But I think as a film, it's better than everything underneath this list.
Cool.
Now, maybe I contradict myself a little bit on a couple above it, but that maybe it's just more enjoyment level. But I think at number 6, I'm pretty confident with it right there. Number 5 is Civil War.
Yep.
I really liked Civil War. I thought it did something really interesting with kind of the POV, the characters it was following. It wasn't just this war action film. It followed journalists, which just brought a very interesting take. It kind of posed some moral dilemmas that you kind of had to think through.
Yeah.
I think there was a couple moments that I wish were done a little bit better and delivered really on that kind of moral dilemma that it poses to you from this journalist point of view. But overall, I thought it was really interesting, very different, kind of doing this modern day Civil War. What would that look like? I thought it delivered on that very well. Number 4, Alien Romulus. Really, really good movie. This is probably the best Alien movie I've seen, I would say, since the first one. I like some of the other ones. I think this delivers everything that the first one does well, but does something different.
Yeah.
With adding in, without spoiling anything, just add some elements that are truly terrifying. Very, very terrifying. And I didn't expect going in. So it was already delivering on a good Alien movie. And then it did something very original that I thought, oh, this elevates it above some of the past ones that I've seen. Number 3 would be The Monkey Man. Did you see The Monkey Man?
I did not see The Monkey Man.
The Monkey Man. Dev Patel does a really, really good job, I think, in delivering kind of this. It's an action thriller, but I would almost describe it in some ways as this like psychedelic kind of trip at times. He adds in some kind of cultural elements that make it very different. It's not just a John Wick spinoff or whatever you want to call that. It does some interesting things that I think keep it original and give it some identity. And I thought it was a really good time. At first, when it came out, I didn't know what I thought. I knew I liked it, but I didn't know how much.
Yeah.
The more I thought about it, the more I really liked it. This is where I think our lists are probably going to look very similar.
Yes.
Number 2 is Deadpool and Wolverine. Gosh, this was fun. Such a fun movie. I think if I'm looking at it as a trilogy, it delivered on everything we love about the first 2.
Yeah.
Adding in Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, the chemistry was perfect. It's everything I could have expected and more. And adding in some other characters that we know and love, it just delivered on the action. It did something different with the action. It delivered on the chemistry, something different with Hugh Jackman. Adding it into kind of the MCU, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But I think it did very well what it set out to do as a movie, as a Deadpool film in the MCU. I think it did very well. And then my number 1, this is probably going to be pretty obvious. Dune Part 2.
Dune 2.
Dune 2
A worthy top spot.
I thought Dune 1 was one of the greatest science fiction films I've ever seen. Dune 2 surpassed that. So it just had to be at number 1. It's a great sequel. It makes the first one even better. Paul Atreides' character is exponentially better in this movie because of what everything Dune 1 sets up. The chemistry between him and Zendaya, all of it is just even better than the first one. The action, the story, the execution, the cinematography. This is definitely one of the best movie-going experiences I have ever seen in theaters.
Yeah.
I mean, seeing this in IMAX, I could probably only think of a couple other films that maybe top it or just in that realm.
Yeah.
But I think it was just such a great sequel. I'm nervous where it's going to go from here, but I have all the faith in Denis Villeneuve.
Oh, yeah.
But that's where my top 10's at for the year.
I think that's a solid list, except for War of the Rohirrim. I don't think that's... I think I can think of a couple that I feel like are better than that. But that's besides the point. I get to ask my question about your list. You can ask your question about mine. So, when I had to add you, as we sat here, and I'm like, dude, Nosferatu is not in my list. And then as I sat down,
yeah,
I'm like, yes, it is.
It's in there. Yeah.
And what's funny is I have it higher rated than you do.
Are you
on my
serious?
list? Yes, I do. I'm thinking
Wow.
You were like, dude, it's up there for me. I'm like, okay, maybe like a 3 spot. And you're like 6? No.
Wow.
Okay, we'll get to it.
That is interesting. Okay.
Number 10. I have Wicked.
Okay.
Wicked almost went off the list for Nosferatu, but I had to take Craven off of there because that was just such a... I'm joking. That's
Okay,
not
gosh,
real.
I was hoping you were.
Nosferatu took off my list, if anyone's curious, was Ministry of Ungodly Warfare. I recognize that was not a great movie.
But up your alley.
But it is up my alley. I will say it as many times as I need to. Guy Ritchie makes movies for me. I'm convinced.
I'm shocked that it would be off your list, though.
Yeah, I think so.
Over Wicked. Wow.
Wicked's
I'm
great.
curious.
Did you see Wicked?
I did not see Wicked.
Oh my gosh.
I know
You're
I'd
going
probably
to be
love it.
floored.
Yeah.
Like the music is good, but I don't even care. Like the acting and the performances are what really shine.
Yeah.
And I'm enough to be excited about the part 2.
Yes.
But I will go Ministry of Ungodly Warfare.
Close 10.
So it's an honorable mention there. Number 9, I have Mad Max Furiosa.
Okay.
Did you see that?
I did not.
Okay, that was solid.
I could
Anna
see
Taylor-Joy
that.
did a really good job. Chris Hemsworth did a really good job.
Yeah.
It's very fun, and I like it. Transformers 1 is my number 8 spot.
I've heard a lot of good things.
That's a great movie. It's animated. It's just fun.
Yeah.
I will say the actors do a really, really good job. It's weird to hear Chris Hemsworth do the voice.
Yeah.
Because I think it's just such an iconic voice. And I think the weird thing is it's like sort of there, but you feel like it's off. And they try and I think if you watch the movie, there's a progression through the character, and the voice gets closer, but it's never there. And I think it's weird. I don't think you should. That means to take Chris Hemsworth out of the movie. Just something. It's just a little off-putting. Yeah. But that movie's funny, dude. That's a funny movie.
Interesting.
It's funny. It's got good action. I don't know if you watched any Transformers cartoons, but
I did.
If you did, you're gonna. I think you're gonna like it.
Yeah.
Number 7, Gladiator 2. I'm right there with you.
Not too far.
Gladiator 2 was a fun movie. I think I came out a bit more negative than you did, just because I felt like it did not justify its existence.
Mm-hmm.
As in, I don't think when we were presented and given the story, I don't think it really made sense that it needed to be a story told.
Yes.
I think they were kind of like, we want to do another Gladiator movie, let's do one. Now, that being said, if that being the case, it's a great sequel for coming up with something. But I don't necessarily feel that this was something that was written on Ridley Scott's heart was this sequel.
Yeah.
But I think writing one and execution, it's done very well.
Yes.
Number 6, I have The Bike Riders. I know you didn't see this one, but this one is definitely worth your time if you want. Not necessarily action heavy, while it does have those moments.
Yeah.
It's not Sons of Anarchy, but it is still fun, and it is still really solid storytelling on top of really, really good acting. Don't listen to the voice of the Jodie Comer's voice. That's
awful.
A struggle.
That was my
it's definitely probably accurate. I just don't. It is not a brain scratcher, or a brain. It doesn't scratch any brain itches, right? It's kind of like, but Austin Butler and Tom Hardy kill it in this movie, and Norman Reedus. I mean, gosh, you want your Walking Dead characters in your bike rider. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Number 5, I have Nosferatu.
Okay, so we're close.
We're very close.
We're close.
I just have it
All
at top.
That's funny.
I basically am like, yeah, Nosferatu's better than these for sure.
Yes.
Where I think it gets polarizing is I have number 4. I have Fall Guy. Did you see Fall Guy?
I loved Fall Guy.
I really like Fall Guy.
But not a top 10 movie.
Really? What was? I mean, come on.
That
dude.
would be my question for you. Is your thought process of Fall Guy being that high on your list?
I just thought it was hilarious.
It is really funny.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think it was. I had a blast watching it.
Yeah.
Like I was pleasantly surprised.
Like it slept on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would say if somebody's looking for a really good time, if they said, "What's a slept on movie that you saw last year?"
Yeah.
I would put Fall Guy, but I would not put it above these films.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not saying. I'm just saying in terms of enjoyment. I will rewatch Fall Guy before I rewatch Nosferatu.
Oh, that's true. Yes. I think Nosferatu is a better movie, though.
No, I agree. I have this weird relationship in enjoyment versus what I think is a good movie. In top for me, any sort of list I'm going to give you is almost like it's in an order, but it also might as well be in no particular order.
Yes.
Because all of them are good, and I'm saying to see all of them. Where I struggle is like versus that enjoyment to what is just a compositionally good movie ratio. I just struggle to split those in my brain because I think if I were to have to go, I think Nosferatu is a better movie than Deadpool Wolverine.
That was where my head was going,
and you
actually.
put Deadpool Wolverine above it because you enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it more.
That's fine. That's what I did with Fall Guy.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I think you just enjoyed it more than I did.
Yeah, I just think I watched it like, this, no one talked about this movie. I'm going to watch it. And oh my gosh, I was like, this is hilarious. Yeah. This is really funny. And it's got good action. Yeah. Whatever. Ryan Gosling's really good in it. Aaron Taylor Johnson's really funny in it.
He is, yeah.
And so I had a good time with it.
Okay, that's fair.
Either way. Plus, I always like a little paying homage to stunt team and people behind the scenes who make movies happen, which I felt like this movie succeeded in doing.
Very well.
Number 3, I have Alien Romulus. This movie is awesome. This is my top 3 of the movies you just need to see. Alien Romulus. If you don't like horror movies, I don't care. Calling this a horror movie is not fair. This is a sci-fi thriller.
Yes.
Hands down. And it is fun. And I don't think you necessarily need to see any of the other ones. It's a perfect one to jump in on and just go. And it's fun. And you can just enjoy it. The characters are good. The sets, oh my gosh, the sets, the setting are all really, really good. The action's really good. The shots are good. I don't know if I could talk about and praise that movie enough. That's one that I watched and was like, oh yeah, I liked it. And as I went, it would just move. It just climbed the ranks.
Yeah.
Number 2, we're identical here. Deadpool Wolverine. Yeah. This movie is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
enough said.
if there's a movie that you could have more expectations put on and then delivered, it's this one.
Yes.
This one, Dune. Well, my number one's Dune. I mean, Dune had some expectations, but with bringing Hugh Jackman back, we're not going to say anything that hasn't been said about this movie. Yeah. It's a great. Those who hate on it, I don't understand.
I don't get it either.
I think you might have missed the point. It's the perfect love letter to Fox. Should have been marketed that way, not as a savior of the MCU.
True.
But that's beside the point. That's not the movie's fault. That is the expectation we as an audience put on it. So
there's a conversation to be had about that somewhere.
Yeah. Dune 2, number 1. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My favorite experience in a theater. Probably right under, I saw Interstellar for the first time and the IMAX re-release, right under that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Oh my gosh, just the sound design, the colors, the world, the cinematography, the shots. There's a shot of Paul. There's 2 shots of Paul in this moment when he is kind of risen to the Lisan al-Gaib and he is walking. and there's the shot of the sandworm. That's just cool. Then there's this aerial shot with the crowd of the Fremen over top, and you have Paul walking through the crowd. I mean, oh my gosh,
Yes.
it's just so good.
Yeah.
I love that shot. It's so good. That shot stuck with me. That movie stuck with me. It totally, in my eyes, I know we differ, redeemed the first one. I was kind of meh on the first one. It makes the first one so much better. Not that it was bad, it just made it better for me.
Yeah.
Because it just is the payoff for the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love it. That movie moved into that franchise moved into my top 10 on the execution of Dune 2. I really, really liked it. And it's really great. And you should definitely take time to watch it. If you haven't seen it, I'll recognize it's not for everybody.
Definitely.
It's they call it, people compared it to Star Wars. It's not a fair comparison. I think when people were comparing it to Star Wars, I think they mean like this is going to be everyone's new obsession instead of Star Wars.
Yeah.
For those who maybe feel like Star Wars has been lacking, which is its own conversation.
Yeah.
But I think that's what the Dune 2 slot is those who are wanting more from maybe Star Wars or properties like Star Wars, and
A science fiction epic.
Yeah, and Dune 2 is there for the taking, for you to grab, sink your teeth into, and enjoy.
Because it's very dense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lore. We know there's a lot of content around it as well. So, yeah, that's a worthy number one, I think, for both of us. Gosh, what a good movie.
We're at 45 minutes right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you about War of the Rohirrim, just because that was a pretty big letdown for me.
Yeah.
This year.
I can understand that, I guess.
I understand it's an anime. I don't think it leaned into being an anime. I could have taken both. I could have been like, okay, cool. A Lord of the Rings anime. Mm-hmm. Oh, sweet. That's a great way to showcase a lot of things. And then as the movie started, I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's going to be more grounded. And then there's moments where it's not grounded and it becomes more of an anime. And then it kind of goes back to being grounded again. Mm-hmm. I don't love that. I feel like it did not utilize being an anime. It looks incredible.
It does look really good.
I'm going to give it that. It looks amazing.
I came out the opposite thinking of, I thought it balanced the anime elements and the groundedness very well. Like, I've watched enough anime to know that it can get bonkers really quick.
Yeah, I mean, that's so
And I don't
true.
want my Lord of the Rings to be so crazy that it doesn't feel realistic anymore. Not that anime has to feel realistic, but because it's Lord of the Rings specifically, I wanted some grounded elements. And I felt like where it leaned into the anime, it leaned in just enough to where you go, this definitely wouldn't happen in a normal Lord of the Rings film.
I think it leaned in too much at that point.
I think it leaned in just enough, but didn't lean in far enough that I felt like it broke the immersion of it still being in a Lord of the Rings world.
Yeah.
So for me, it was balanced enough to where I felt like I got the anime elements, but I still got some of the groundedness of Lord of the Rings to where it toted the line very well for me. So I liked it a lot. And I think maybe if I didn't like the anime elements or I felt like it was too grounded, I wouldn't. But because I thought it had a balance, I think I just liked it a lot more.
To me, it's almost like doing a... This doesn't sound exaggerated, but this is the type of letdown I experienced. To me, it's like being like, hey, we're doing an official anime Star Wars movie. I know they did Visions, but let's say official anime Star Wars movie. And there's not a more intense lightsaber fight than Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That it did not get utilized as being an anime. There's not a moment in that anime action-wise that is better than Legolas sliding down the shield of the stairs at Helm's Deep. There's not a shot better than Legolas taking down the elephants. There's not a shot necessarily better. Like they kind of there's some great moments, and I'm dogging on it. It's just why I don't have it in my top 10.
Yeah.
I could sing its praises as well. Mm-hmm. It just felt like a movie that had to be made to keep an IP, which I believe is the reason it got made. I don't think they really felt like it was written on. It was just these directors felt this calling to make this. I felt like they were like, we need to make something. What's the cheapest way we could make a property or some content?
Get with an anime studio.
And we'll get with an anime studio. People will eat it up. And we did, and I did. It just doesn't capitalize on being an anime. And that could be the budget conversation. That might be like, we didn't have the money. We had to create something, and we didn't have the money to do these grand animated fight scenes, which is what I think anime shines in.
True. Yeah.
And so that's where I think it falls a little flat. There's some story inconsistencies with the main character. Like, can she fight? When she can fight, when she can't fight. Like, there's an interaction she has with an older guy that just absolutely just defeats her very easily. She doesn't pose any threat to this person. And then in the next big plot climax moment, she's a great fighter.
Yes.
I think there's moments like that where I just don't, it just took me out of it. I walked out the only person who really didn't like it, and the people I saw it with.
Interesting.
I recognize that a lot of people were able to take it for what it was. I was one that kind of maybe had some grander expectations. Yeah. But that's on me at the end of the day.
I can definitely see some of the thought process behind it. It just didn't break immersion for me. It didn't take me out of the movie enough. I guess when it was a little less anime, more grounded, I just thought, oh, they're going for a more grounded take because it is Lord of the Rings. They don't want it to be so out there that people go, yeah, they took a whole lot of liberty with this. And they did take some liberty. But I just quickly knew that they wanted it to be a little bit more grounded, just in an anime style.
Yeah.
So when it didn't, to your point, use quote-unquote anime like it traditionally is, I just felt like they're just dialing it back because it's Lord of the Rings.
Right.
If I got too crazy, we wouldn't like it as much. We would think, this isn't Lord of the Rings anymore. This is just a crazy one-off anime.
See, and I think they could have... It's like,
you're right, they could have
in
done
the
something
story
cool.
beats, it's great.
Yes.
The dialogue's good.
Yeah.
The action to me is just bad.
I think
and the action
okay.
is like, it's very grounded, and like the opening shot with the fist fight is great.
Yes.
But the grand battle is not.
Yes.
The fight with Wolf is good.
Yes, that is good.
But that also to me is confusing because I didn't think she could fight because of fighting this old guy who beat her up.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. And we're not one. It's definitely obvious that Wolf is a better fighter than that guy.
Yes.
So,
and you could get deep into it.
And also,
Wolf is fighting on emotion and through anger, so he's not quite. You could really get deep into that.
You could, but this is my number one annoyed thing was they made a point in the movie to tell us the main character. She was like, there was a guy who was like, I don't remember these sigils.
Yes. And
she went and listed the sigils, like she filled in the gaps there. They like made a point to be like, oh, she knows what the sigils are.
Yes.
You're telling me she would not recognize her father's right-hand informant sigil at Wolf's compound on the map?
Yeah.
That bothered me so much.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
Like when he betrayed everyone, I was like, because we're not familiar with the sigils, so she reveals that information to us as an audience, and I'm like,
but you wouldn't recognize that.
Why would you not recognize it when it mattered?
Exactly. Yeah. I'll give you that point. I don't think it's perfect.
I mean, it's not going to be. It's just that those. When the action's not there for me to gush at, I start looking at everything else.
Yeah.
And that I'm like, well, that's inconsistent. And I start picking it apart, and that's my own fault. But that to me was, ugh.
I went in. I don't think I had high expectations. Yeah. Like I went in wanting to just.
I totally did.
I wanted to just sit with this. I knew it was anime, and sometimes when I watch something anime related, I like to just sit in it and just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
And I think I had no expectations whatsoever. So when I thought, oh, this is beautiful to watch, it's Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings. So being in the world again, it's just fun to be back in. And because of that, I think I just enjoyed it. I thought, oh, this was a fun revisit to the world.
Yep.
It's fine. It's at number 10. So it's not going to be something I'm going to say is, the greatest animated movie I've seen. But I think it was a good enough time that if you like Lord of the Rings, I would say, yeah, check it out.
You would say that with Rings of Power Season 1?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, if you're going to go all the way through... You would say if you like
Lord of the Rings... Okay.
I think if you're going to...
You wouldn't warn anyone?
I would probably warn someone.
Okay.
Yes. But I think if you're going to follow it through, especially with Season 2, then yes.
I almost feel like you could just start at Season 2.
You might be able to.
All of season 1 is basically what the writers wrote, nothing to do with anything connected. But that's a greater conversation that we can have because you haven't seen season 2.
I haven't seen all of it.
Okay, so we can talk about it when you've seen season 2.
Yeah, and I'll watch it that way we can because that's a worthy conversation to probably be had.
We're wrapping up that. The only other thing we have to talk about, and we kind of want to map out what this month looks like.
Yeah.
We do aim to record an episode every week and have it up on Monday.
Yeah.
Permit me learning Premiere Pro. But that is the goal. So mapping out what our week looks like in terms of being excited for things. We have the Super Bowl coming out.
Yes.
Now, if you're not a football person, that's fine. Because guess what also happens at the Super Bowl? Commercials,
trailers.
Which means movie trailers,
Yeah.
baby. And we have some ideas about what movie trailers we're going to be seeing.
Yeah.
I know for sure. I'm going to let you had this thought, so I'm going to let you debut it because I think it's a genius thought. But we have Marvel confirmed. We're getting 2 trailers with
Definitely.
we have 3 projects coming out. And I think we're definitely getting these 2. We're definitely going to get Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I think 100%. They've been hyping it up. I mean, I've seen some like articles and whatnot about them talking that this is going to be. I think it's going to be their debut. We've seen like images. We've seen like some little things. I think this is going to be. Here's your Fantastic Four. Here's what it looks like. Be excited for this.
Right. Easily has the most weight.
On
it.
100%.
I know some people were talking about that they think Brave New World has more weight.
I
Could
don't
not
agree.
disagree. I think if Brave New World flops, no one's going to be too shocked.
Yeah.
But if Fantastic Four is not great, that's going to be super concerning about going forward.
Yes.
But
Very
no,
much so.
Fantastic Four. I think the next trailer is going to be another Brave New World trailer, just to kind of where it'll be coming out the following week.
They've got to build hype.
I think they want to build some extra hype around it, which, I think there's plenty of hype going on. I think people are very curious.
Yeah. Give us some more Red Hulk because that's what we need.
No, we don't. Don't do it. I hope it's like the most like they're not even fighting because that I'm like that puts me at ease a little bit because I don't know how Sam's supposed to fight a Hulk, but okay. Anyway, we can talk about it. We're excited for this. Let's just put it. We are excited.
I am very excited.
We want it to be good. We're very skeptical, but we want it to be really good.
Yes.
We have our tickets to see it on Thursday.
Yeah.
We are not cool enough to be invited to premieres, so we will be slumming it.
But Disney, if you'd like to,
but
please.
Hey. As a podcast, as a show, our one goal. We have one goal, and it is not to be famous, and it is not to be rich. It is to get invited to one movie premiere. No matter how small.
Yes.
No matter how small.
So somebody fly us out, please.
Just one. I would be so excited.
Gosh,
I will even
awesome.
invite myself. I'll even count it. Anyway.
Yes.
But that's our one goal.
That is a goal, yeah.
That is a cool.
That's a bucket list.
That's
like,
a
dream come true kind of event.
For sure.
To be invited, go to premiere, put on the nice outfit. Yeah. That would be so incredible.
Yeah. That is our one goal.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. It's going to happen. What's going to manifest it this year? 2025 is our year, our first year. But we're so excited. And we're going to close it out and
let's do it.
Be excited. So we have the Super Bowl and then we have Brave New World coming out on Valentine's Day. So which we'll be seeing the day before. So.
Yes, and so we're gonna do kind of our first run of the parking lot.
Yes,
take.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's what I'm really excited about.
The whole reason it's called the parking lot takes, other than us chilling in the parking lot, is we will be doing our first reactions in the movie theater parking lot with a mic'd up setup.
Exactly.
To hopefully get it out real quick, and then the following Monday we'll have a deeper discussion,
maybe
diving in, spoilers if it warrants.
Yeah.
But that is the plan. So.
Yeah. So for our first rendition of it, we'll see how it goes. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a fun one to start off because we both really enjoy the MCU.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very fun conversation, I think,
sure.
for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's looking good. I'm excited.
I'm very pumped. All right. Sweet.
Episode 1.
That's a wrap, baby.
That's a wrap. All right.